For this moment, how will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
You know what that was?
Amazingness.
And three-letter word, joy.
Yes.
I mean, that is the final ad, and I believe that it was Shanahan who had that put together and released it. Now, if you don't, you're like, who's Shanahan? She was RFK Jr.'s running mate. She was in there. You heard her voice talking about being a lifelong Democrat and being a first-time Trump voter in that ad, which the visuals match the audio. I mean, the audio is just absolutely incredible. It is uplifting. It gives you that real sense of pride that I think so many Americans have felt may be beyond our grasp at this point. But you realize when you hear something like that and then you see the visuals with it, that it's not beyond our grasp, that we can have those days again in which things are going well, and it isn't just one day after another of darkness and more bad news and revised numbers telling us that, well, the experts overestimated this or they underestimated that. A president declaring people who don't support him to be garbage or semi-fascist or bitter clingers or deplorables or irredeemables or Nazis or the entire list of names that Americans get called Americans. We're not talking about individual politicians. Yes, Donald Trump calls Liz Cheney names and Jake Tapper names and political opponent names. The difference between Donald Trump is when he is utilizing that sort of rhetoric, it is against an individual that he's firing back against after they lobbed some sort of accusation against him. While the Democrats label all Americans that don't support them, tens of millions of Americans, as racist, homophobes, fascist, go down the list over and over again. And when you become, you become numb to it, but there's this darkness at the same time where it's a toxic relationship. I so often, because it's appropriate, equate the relationship between Democrat leaders and voters, their own voters oftentimes, their own supporters as a toxic relationship where they are in charge. And when it comes to their messaging, it's no one can save you but me. You're nothing without me. No one will love you as much as I do. Treat you like trash until they fear that maybe you're going to go to someone else, and then beg you to stay. And then when that doesn't work, tell you how that other guy or that other gal will never treat you as good as I do. It's a toxic relationship. If you don't support them, you're all of these horrible things. If you don't support them, you're bad, you're evil. And day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, collectively, of being subject to that, it can be a real downer. And it's oftentimes noted that even when Democrats are in power, the voters are unhappy. I would argue largely because, again, it's a toxic relationship between the party they support. Much like anyone who's been in a toxic relationship and, well, I'm with him because I love him, and sure, I know that he doesn't always treat me the best, and he takes me for granted and so forth, but, I love him, and so they stick and they stay, but even they're not truly happy, and you sense that. You see that constantly when it comes to Democrats and being in power and how angry the voters still are. And it does become easy to think, can we ever just be a joyful nation again? And when you hear an ad like the closing ad, and we'll get it posted so you can see it, and the people, Kamala Harris last night, her so-called closing argument was Lady Gaga and Oprah, and it was a big free concert. It's the bread and circuses argument that just give the people these little distractions, and you can drive their world into the ground as long as you're keeping them entertained. And talk about on full display with the Kamala Harris campaign. The concerts, the celebrities, the glitz, the glamour, the cameos on TV, on Saturday Night Live. It's all distraction. It's all illusion. It's all to keep the people entertained so they don't realize what is really going on. This is something that has repeated itself through history. It's been written about by great philosophers and historians, and it is such a dramatic difference. And we've heard that, so many of us, through our lives. Well, the difference between the two candidates so dramatic. I'm here to tell you, never in our lifetimes has it been so dramatic, because it's not simply about policy. It's not simply about national security. It's not simply about the economy and crime. It is about a difference in representation, and you see it. Kamala Harris, the elite, the wealthy. As Congressman Burleson noted, it's just remarkable how much it just visually looks like Hunger Games. You have these wealthy celebrities in the Met Galas with the masked people, getting their dress just right on the red carpet, and then scurrying out of the way so that they don't mess up the shot of the multimillionaire celebrity. And then those celebrities telling all of us how it is that we should vote, even if it's against our best interest. And the Republicans that they bring on board are the Liz Cheneys and the Adam Kinzingers. They're the elites. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, you've got union workers showing up at events. You've got gays for Trump. You have Arabs for Trump, Muslims for Trump, Jews for Trump. You have these people coming together. Last week, you had the one of the most high-profile Jewish elected officials, Zelgner of New York, accepting the endorsement of Muslim Americans for Donald Trump. You've got RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Shanahan. You've got Elon Musk. Yesterday, Rogan, who also is not a conservative guy. All these different people from different walks of life. Politically, many of them not really associated with any sort of political party or ideology, but just want a better country. And they're all coming together behind one person. And that's Donald Trump. Joe Rogan issued an endorsement yesterday for Donald Trump. There's some new polling, and we're gonna open the phone lines. But there are a few things that I did want to run over with you, including some of the last minute early voting stuff. It is all looking very good for Donald Trump. Of course, the Trump campaign's messages only because you continue to get out there. So do not stop what you're doing. Do not. This is always the big fear that you get people feeling confident and they're like, it's raining, I don't need to vote. Trump's going to win it anyhow. And enough people collectively feel that way. And in some of these swing states, it only takes one state with a close race. So I do want to go over some of that and some of the last minute endorsements for Donald Trump, which again, across the political spectrum. Have a look at the weather. Delta Roofing is sponsoring our open phone lines. And the way that this works, if you're not familiar, on Election Day, we just open the phone lines and let you call in your thoughts, your feelings, your encouragements. And it doesn't just have to be the presidential race, of course. We've got numerous amendments. Depending on where you live, Springfield, there's a tax issue. What a shock on the ballot, whether or not to raise taxes or keep them, not letting the tax expire. So I know that in Springfield, that's something that many of you have thoughts on. We'll open up those lines and get you all queued up. And you can text in as well. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line is 447-KSGF. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see showers throughout the morning and then partly sunny skies with a high near 65. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 66. And on Thursday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 63.
All right. Like I said, just a few other bits of news coming up here, and then we will get to your calls on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. We'll start with Keith in Branson West. Hold tight. Your moments away. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line, excuse me, 447 KSGF. That's 417, of course. Just a couple of items that over the last 24 hours developed. A lot of it's polling. New poll from the Israel Democracy Institute shows that Arab Israelis, like their Jewish counterparts, would prefer to see Trump win the U.S. presidency rather than Kamala Harris. 65% of Israelis favoring Trump, only 13% favoring Harris, which is really weird given that he's Hitler. Also, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire has endorsed Donald Trump, saying that he is the best candidate for libertarians. And then some of the latest polling Atlas Intel found Trump leading Harris in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. So, of course, so many of those have been very close, but their polling shows that Trump is up amongst all of the swing states. And then there's the traditional Dixville Notch in New Hampshire. This is where voting opens at midnight, and there's just a very small handful of individuals. The first 6 official votes cast in the presidential election, and they were counted at midnight. Results a tie between Trump and Harris. Dixville Notch historically votes at midnight in the election with only a handful of registered voters. Now, this is an improvement for Trump. In 2020, Biden got 5 votes. Trump got 0. And in 2016, what was it? 4-1. Sorry, 4-2. Hillary Clinton getting 4, Donald Trump getting 2. So he has outperformed himself in the past 2 presidential elections that he has participated in. Delta Roofing sponsoring the open phone lines. Don't forget, we are going to be doing live election coverage from the Watch Party, Greene County Watch Party, University Plaza Convention Center, Juniors Plumbing, sponsoring that. A big thank you to them. Our open phone lines this morning, thanks to Delta Roofing, to Branson West. Keith, thanks for holding, and your thoughts on the day.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
So I got up early, went in and voted in the Stone County area here in Branson West. Quite a few people were waiting in line, which was awesome to see. A lot of so they got through the line pretty quick. The polls opened at 6. There was probably 40, 45 people there in line, and I was through and out the door by about 6:15. Everybody was in a really good mood. So I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the fate of the nation depends on this particular vote. And I just encourage everybody to get out there.
As I mentioned earlier, and I appreciate the call, Keith, we so many of us have heard most important election of our lifetime, but there really, again, I just don't know that there's such a difference in approach, such a difference in representation, the elites versus the rest of us. And the, one candidate in the minds of, they're both sort of mysteries to some degree. Kamala Harris, because she won't take any sort of real position on anything. Every position she's taken in the past, she hasn't denounced it, but she's had surrogates go out. And so the biggest complaint or question that particularly undecided voters have about Kamala Harris is, who is she? Like, what does she even stand for? Then you have Trump, and there's so much misinformation about him. And just straight up lies by the media. You've got these totally and completely irresponsible, unethical people in the media making false claims about Trump, threatening to assassinate political opposition, saying that Nazis were very fine people. All of these things just completely 100% untrue. And I think back to the famous, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And you think about all of the panic that you hear in the voice and the words of some of these Democrats. And it's based off of false information. Oh, he's going to do this. He's going to do that. Well, I know because he said this. Actually, no, he did not say that. Well, but I read he said this. Yep, not what he said. So we have an election in which one candidate refuses to say who she is. Another candidate in which the political opposition, along with the media, completely lie about who he is. And I think that should tell us something. When the elites are lying about the candidate that is not their candidate and doing everything they can to protect their candidate, that tells us which candidate represents which side. And it's why one is surrounded by teachers and parents and nurses and construction workers and sanitation workers, and the other one is surrounded by the Beyoncés, the Oprah Winfreys, and the Lady Gagas. It's a natural fit. 447 KSGF. If you don't have the app, I recommend downloading it. It's very easy then when you open it up just to hit the talk and text line button, and then you can call in from that or text in from that. Delta Roofing sponsoring our open phone lines this morning. Take a break, more ahead. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sounds like already the polls are quite occupied. Now, we had Keith from Branson West earlier talking about what's going on down there. Tom Martz had texted in and went to early vote yesterday, stood in line for an hour and a half, but then still did not get in time. And this morning saying that there must be several hundred people at the polling location. So it looks as if, at least on the onset, the early voting certainly isn't alleviating any of the lines, though that could change throughout the day and through different parts of the state. The Biden administration has threatened to dispatch federal agents to different polling places across the country, and it seemed as if the first one to publicly say, I don't think so, was DeSantis. This was something that we had Secretary of State Ashcroft on 4 years ago because there was an attempt here to do that. Once again, this is the case. Fox News, the story: continued harassment lawsuit to ban feds from polling sites filed by Missouri Republicans. The Secretary of State and Attorney General both filed a lawsuit yesterday aiming to block the Department of Justice for interfering with polling places on Election Day. Jay Ashcroft saying in a press release, no one is above the law. Well, that would be nice. The law clearly specifically limits who may be in polling places, and this action by the DOJ is not allowed. Once again, the federal government is attempting to illegally interfere in Missouri's elections, and he's right. This is not allowed. They've done it before, and they are attempting to once again do it again because this is sadly and unfortunately what has become of our society and of our politics. Democrats are above the law. They operate above the law. And in most instances, when Republicans or voters are the victims, they are allowed to operate above and outside the law and then utilize the law as a weapon against political opposition. And it's not supposed to be that way. That's not how we were set up, but that is the reality of today, unless and until people stand up and say enough is enough. And this is a case where Ashcroft and other Attorney General, Secretary of States are saying no. Now, of course, Democrat-run states, they're allowing the violation of the laws. They have no problem, of course, doing this, total compliance. But this is what has to happen. We've got to have Republicans, and it would be nice if Democrats did it as well, stand up anytime that elected officials utilize the federal law enforcement as a sword against political opposition, as a shield to protect themselves, and try to operate above the law. And, of course, I imagine many of you are going to have that in mind when you vote today. Traffic update, then more of your text messages, your calls, sponsored by Delta Roofing. Your thoughts on the election today. I know much of it seems like, well, obviously, we know how everyone is going to vote that listens. That's not always the case. Plus, there are some more local races. There's tax issues, particularly for the city of Springfield, the amendments, which is a mixed bag. So any thoughts you have on any of that, or just encouragement, telling people to get out there, head up, chin up. We'd love for you to weigh in on that. 417-447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. I hate this song.
I know you do.
Ugh.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers throughout the morning and then partly sunny skies with a high near 65. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 66. And on Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 63.
I'm going to play that Trump ad at the opening of every hour.
You should, honestly.
It's really
It's
good.
so good.
It is so good.
You heard the audio and you're like, ooh, I want to see the visuals. We have it up at ksgf.com and on the Nick Reed Facebook page and the KSGF Facebook page. And let me tell you something. I posted the Kamala ad and the Trump ad side by side. And you know what? Meta edited the audio for Trump's ad.
How did they do that?
They said that it was copyrighted, even though the Kamala ad had Eminem audio underneath it, and so they muted the portion where RFK Jr. was speaking. Mm-hmm.
That's what we call rigging, folks. Yeah, of course you want Trump to win just for the sake of all of us in the country and our kids But that ad like makes you want him to win even more. So because then you can look back on the ad and not be like, oh, but he lost. If that makes sense. I just think that may be the single greatest political ad ever.
It's really good.
It is so good. Now the Morning in America, Ronald Reagan ad has long been seen as one of the greatest campaign ads, and during that era it probably was. I mean, the tone obviously is much different when you're talking about the mid 80s versus today, but I think this one, just in terms of inspiration and feeling good, that you just it makes you feel good to be an American, and that's something that after 4 years of being urinated on by this administration, and just one thing they got so upside down about Trump having some comedian at a rally who told a joke about Puerto Rico being a garbage pile. But look what they've done to our country. I mean, they've done everything they can to turn this country into one. And it's just like, watching these people in charge take a country that has been so fantastic, that has been the one place in the world people risk their lives to come be part of, and then see these people get a hold of it and trash it. I mean, just trash it. Look what they've done to the cities, our education system. And it does make you it saps something out of you. And that ad, which, like I said, I'm going to play at the opening of every hour, you just hear it, and it gives you that spark again, that feeling again. Speaking of, I have to share this with you just to give you a sense of how much destruction the left has done to this country. And then I'll get to some of your text messages. The Missouri State University Family Association posted the following on social media. In anticipation of the upcoming week, which might be stressful for students, the Counseling Center will be offering the following. Partnering with Majors Health and Wellness to provide a self-care, no-phone zone space on 11.5 through 11.6. Students will be offered self-care activities such as calm jars, coloring pages, and sensory fidgets. Now, mind you, these are adults. I mean, once you make it to college, I mean, unless, I guess you could be 17, and if you're in a state where you're 18, but the vast majority of these people are adults. Adults. They're going to be given calming jars and coloring pages from coloring books. Counseling center support groups for stress on 11.5 at 1 p.m., 11.6 at 2 p.m. These are weekly groups with no pre-registration required. If you want a sign that the left has completely done a job over on this country and has been very successful in completely destroying a significant number of younger people, younger adults in this country, this is it. Universities are supposed to be a place in which you would go in order to be intellectually challenged, to come into contact with people that for the first time, maybe have ideas you've never heard of, give you the ability to hear ideas and thoughts that are bothersome to you, that are new to you, that are the antithesis of your belief system, and hear about those things and discuss those things and be able to have debates over those issues. It's supposed to be like a place, it's like a giant workout center, but for your brain and your emotions.
They removed that post.
Oh, they removed the post. I bet because it's going viral.
Yeah.
Largely because a lot of people don't believe that it's real. A lot of people believe that that posting was made in order to make fun of students, to make fun of young people on university campuses, to make fun of universities, to make fun of young Democrats in particular. Well, I'm sure they removed it because the reaction to it may be triggering. They're going to have to get more calming jars and coloring books for these adults.
And fidget spinners.
And fidget spinners. That is a failure. That is what that is. It is doing the opposite of what a university culture should be doing. There's this cliche of once upon a time on the college campuses, students sitting around on the quad, having these debates, getting together and arguing over politics and social issues, because that's what universities were. And now if you're, and we know what this is all aimed at left-wing students, Democrat students, now calming jars and coloring books and fidget spinners because life's too hard. You may not like the outcome. And I'll say this also. I don't necessarily blame the young people. This is what it's like if you beat a child and then the child turns out to be abusive as an adult. While abuse is wrong, you understand how they came by it. This stuff did not happen. This is environment. These young people have been destroyed by the education system. These young people have been destroyed by parents in many instances. It's just... And when you have a media, think about this. A lot of these people genuinely believe when the Democrats and the media tell them Trump is going to round up and execute political opposition, they believe it. So you can understand, frankly, why now the fact that coloring books seem to be the answer to this, the antidote, is a little problematic. But I don't blame these young adults for being screwed up. It's the environment. It's the universities. It's the public education system. It's oftentimes, again, the parental environment of coddling them so they become, they're like the emotional bubble boy that has to be protected inside this shield from any outside influence that might hurt their feelings or tell them something they don't want to hear. And if that happens, they just fall apart. Here's a calming jar. Here's a coloring book. Just give them pacifiers. Let's just get right down to it. Some of your text messages coming up. The election today, your thoughts, your feelings, your encouragement. 417-447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. All of your home loan needs, I want a great homeloan.com. The good character team there to help, to assist, and to make sure you're informed. A lot of places, of course, it's just all about volume. Get as many people through as possible, and that means closing things. So that's what it's all about. Their number one priority is to get you in, and it is to get you to sign the bottom line. And they don't have much interest in you unless they think you're going to do that. That's not the approach of the character team. They want you to be as informed as possible. And so you don't have to commit to working with them in order to refinance or to get a home loan in order to have them answer your questions. So any questions that you have, is it the right time for you? What difference does it make in terms of the election? Should I wait? Shouldn't I wait? Please utilize their services, their expertise in order to inform yourself so that you're able to make the best decision possible. I want a great homeloan.com because you do. Okay, let's get to some of your text messages, and you can, of course, call in as well. Delta Roofing, sponsoring the open phone lines, 417-447-KSGF. The Senate debate featured Hawley and Coons. There were two other candidates. One was a Green Deal candidate, wasn't impressive at all. The other, I assume, Libertarian, had great ideas that were mostly glossed over. He even touched on national debt being out of control. Hawley's expected to win that. And Kuntz is just going to have a closet full of Simon Cowell T-shirts. 100 people in line at Willard at 6 a.m. We are hearing about these high volumes, which is the overall voting itself, what the numbers are going to be. In my mind, they're going to be significantly higher than normal given the number of people who have been voting. The fact that you've got lines for 2 weeks now, particularly in Greene County, stretching outside where people waiting in line for an hour and a half, 2 hours still aren't able to get in. And then this morning, same sort of line. It's just a remarkable thing. And so the question is that an enthusiasm situation on both sides? Is Kamala Harris driving out the Democrats? The fact that the Democrat voting early has diminished greatly is signaling that there is not that much excitement. Generally, people who vote early, and this makes sense, like those of you who voted early, odds are you're going to vote early in 4 years if early voting is still available. You do it. You think, oh, that worked out nicely, got it done ahead of time. And so the fact that the Democrat strongholds and the Democrat voting is way down for early voting, particularly in swing states, is a sign that they are having a real problem with turnout. And that's why it is that the Trump folks are feeling pretty bullish on things as we go into the election. Let's see. To all of the Christians, get out and vote for the party that most aligns with the values of God. You will be held accountable in the end. God bless the USA. Another text, there were at least 200 people in line as the polls open in Christian County, 20 minutes from leaving the vehicle to getting back in the vehicle to cast my vote. Hashtag Trump 2024. Hey, Nick, I'm always one of the first voters at my precinct. Turnout appears to be much higher than 2020 and a little higher than 2016. Going to get another traffic update and then some more of the text messages coming up. 417-447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. Election night coverage starting at 8 o'clock tonight. We will be broadcasting live, bringing you those numbers from the University Plaza Convention Center. And that is sponsored by Juniors Plumbing. A big thank you to them. Dr. John Lilly will be with us. I know Kyle Wyatt said he would be out there. There's going to be a number of folks that are, of course, going to be there. And throughout the evening, we'll grab them if they are so available, and get them on air, get their thoughts as the numbers do come in. And the open phone lines today, sponsored by Delta Roofing. You can call in, text in. Text message, 417-447-KSGF. Number one, make sure you vote. Oh, and at least try to do a modicum of research before you do. Number two, if you're a Christian, make sure you vote. It's your civic duty and a peaceful way to effect change in our government. Pray before you go to the polls. 3, if you are in Missouri where I live, I recommend voting no on all the amendments. None of those issues need to be enshrined in the state constitution. B, I also voted no on Proposition A, as raising the minimum wage ends up hurting the people it's supposed to help. C, I typically vote no on retaining judges, as information is hard to find on them, and most people default to yes out of apathy. D, if there's any tax issue on the ballot, vote no. It's silly to vote yourself into paying even more taxes. And 4, I'm sure you can guess who I voted for in the presidential race. Trump. I did early in-person voting. Among other reasons, I don't understand why people would vote for a candidate that was installed by mega donors rather than selected by their own party's constituency, particularly when they claim to be for the little guy. Not that anyone particularly cares what I think. Well, I do. Let's go to Aaron in Springfield. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Hi, Nick. I had a question. I was a felon, and I'm not on probation and parole, and I was wondering if I could still vote today, but I haven't registered either. So, register and vote?
Well, if you're not registered, then that's the first question. I mean, Missouri, some states, every state's different, and as always, any questions that you have, you need to call your county clerk. Some states allow registration the day of voting. Missouri is not one of those. Well, that deadline was, it was weeks ago, I think, anyhow.
Yeah, I think it was at the beginning of October.
Yeah, and then the felony question, I believe that's state by state. I think if you can't in Missouri, right? Is that right? Is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think not. That
feel
seems
like
to be
that's
pretty
correct.
standard. And I know we have to have looked that up in the past, but I just don't know. So, county clerk. And if you're in Greene County, of course, Shane Scholler. If you're in another county, you can look it up online and get that information. Talking about, and thanks for the call, 417-447-KSGF. Some of your messages regarding the MSU Family Association posting about creating safe zones for students that can't handle the outcome of the election, and students are offered, this was a posting they made, self-care activities such as calming jars, coloring pages, and sensory fidgets. If you don't know what a calming jar is, it's generally a jar that has glitter and stuff in it that you can focus on to not be stressed. I know a lot of times they're used, or I'm familiar with them being used with young people that are severely autistic because of all just, it's an ability to focus on something and to shut out all of the other distractions that can be quite bothersome to the severely autistic. But this is something that, as we have increasingly destroyed our young people and their ability to have any sort of emotional maturity or intellectual maturity, this is the go-to. It's a total failure of our society. This is a total failure of our university systems and education system in this country. And it not only is not getting better, it's getting worse. And it's also why the left wants free college for everyone. When you see the indoctrination that takes place in the university systems, that they strip as best as they can, they work to strip students from the ability of thinking, of hearing thoughts with which they disagree, how to think, and instead to just memorize certain belief systems that are to be regurgitated. When you see that is what is occurring, it makes sense that the left wants free college for everyone, because then they're just sending them to indoctrination camps to be brainwashed into believing there's only one way to do things, that's the good way, that is their way, and everything else is evil.
Felony.
Oh, yeah.
Question.
We got 10 seconds.
You can, unless you've convicted an election offense, then you can't.
Okay, there we go. But yeah, you do need to also be registered.
Yes.
News coming up in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed.
with this moment. How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
And that is, of course, what they say is the closing argument, the final ad put out there by the Trump campaign, and then Kamala Harris, a concert with Oprah, Lady Gaga, and a bunch of other celebrities. While those of us who are garbage, semi-fascist, Nazis, racist, homophobes, deplorables, and irredeemables, we just want to be left alone, to live our lives, and to not have government jack up the cost of being an American. Delta Roofing sponsoring our open phone lines this morning, 417-447-KSGF. We're going to get a news update, and then Justin and Willard, we will go to you right after that.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see showers throughout the morning and then partly sunny skies with a high near 65. Tonight partly cloudy with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 66. And on Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 63.
All right, Delta Roofing sponsoring the open phone lines this morning. Let's go to Willard and Justin. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nick.
Hello.
So I got done voting. I was in line about 5 minutes before they opened at 6. I'd say there's probably 250 people there in line. I got done voting, and I was waiting for my son, who's a few people behind me, to put in his ballot. And before he could do that, the ballot machine threw an error. They said it was a jammed ballot. I kind of overheard the worker there on the phone, and they came to the conclusion that they would have to send out a technician. And so, since there was probably 30 plus people in line to put their ballot in, they kind of stopped voting and handing out ballots. And they said whoever has their ballot can just leave it in the box that's kind of in the ballot counter itself. They said just leave your ballot there, and after the technician gets it back up and running, they will insert your ballot. I was just wondering if that's a normal procedure. There were people in line that were very leery about it.
Yeah, which polling place was this?
It was in Willard.
Got it. Well, to answer the question, I don't know. Now, I'm sure that obviously it's not standard for the voting machine to glitch, but then when it does, is that the protocol? Do they have set in place?
Right.
Okay, well here and yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but this brings up a good point, Justin. I appreciate the call this morning. Things do happen. They do, and you think about. I don't even know how many polling places, how many that exist across this country, and it's inevitable that there's going to be goof ups. The problem is that our government has created such a distrust in our system that anytime anything goes wrong, people are like, well, wait a minute here, is this normal? And I'm not even saying that we shouldn't. We should always be very vigilant. We're talking about the vote here. But when we have watched, you just think about the absurdity of it. We're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And everything else in life, as every day goes by, every month goes by, every year goes by, intelligent societies, intelligent people, intelligent organizations figure out how to do it better. Yet somehow in this country, we figure out how to do it worse. Now, that being said, there's a clear line, a division here. There are states that do learn. Florida's a tremendous example. Florida in 2000, total complete screw up when it came to the election. Hanging chads, under ballots, over ballots. It was total chaos, and Florida fixed it. And now they have one of the most secure, efficient, trustworthy systems in place. Meanwhile, you look at, and frankly, it's states run by Democrats. Every election cycle, they get worse at it. They get worse. Somehow it takes them longer to count votes. Somehow there are more screw-ups. You have out in Colorado the Secretary of State, the one who tried to kick Trump off the ballot before the Supreme Court stepped in, unanimously said, you can't do that. And her office had posted online voting information that included passcodes that would, if somebody saw it, would allow people to get in, see information, and so forth. And it was up for several weeks. Oh, oopsie daisies. You're already hearing in some of these states that are run by Democrats, it may take days, or even California, it's gotten to where it takes weeks to count those votes. I mean, what does that tell us? Why is it always the blue counties? Why is it always the blue states? That while normal people get better at things, they get worse. It's an embarrassment. It should be inexcusable, but it's not inexcusable because in the states where this occurs, you have a Secretary of State, and because they're a Democrat in a blue state, they just reelect them over and over and over again. Doesn't matter how poorly they do. Doesn't matter what an embarrassment they make the state out to be. It is inexcusable because we know, excuse me, based off the fact, again, Florida and other states as well. I use Florida as an example because of where they were in 2000 versus where they put themselves. If all 50 states were a train wreck, then one could potentially argue, well, there's just a lot of people. These are unavoidable problems. But it's always these states that are run by Democrats, which means one of two things. It's either corruption or it's incompetence. And perhaps a combination of the two. Traffic update, more of your text messages, your calls, open phone lines, 417-447-KSGF, sponsored by Delta Roofing. Live election coverage starting at 8 o'clock tonight. We will be broadcasting live from the Greene County Watch Party. That will be at the University Plaza Convention Center, sponsored by Junior's Plumbing. Our open phone lines this morning, sponsored by Delta Roofing, our good partners over there. 417-447-KSGF. Let's go to Mike in Springfield. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nick, I just wanted to tell you there in Ozark, Missouri, their lines were very short for voting this morning, so you could get right in, and you're going to kill me on this. Vote blue, but I still like your show.
Well, hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Well, I'm wondering. Hey. I'm wondering if you know those long lines are just going to be. Now, I thought when early voting started and the lines were very long, I thought, well, after a couple days that'll die down. It clearly did not, at least in Greene County. Now,
no.
You know, other counties. So I'm in my mind, I'm saying, well, maybe these long lines that are in some areas, because not everyone's experiencing them, but we are getting reports, and I'll read some of the text messages of longer lines, if that's just an early morning thing, but after a few hours, if it'll die down, or if it's going to continue all day. And it may just depend on the area.
Yesterday at Christian County Courthouse, the line was wrapped all the way around the building when I went, so I decided to just go this morning.
So okay, so you're voting blue, you said, is that correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm like so far independent, I think, because there's things with Republicans and Democrats that I like. You know, like I'm all for guns. I live in Missouri, you know, everybody hunts, Well, I was going to ask you, because I wasn't going to
ask you, well, why are you doing this or that? But just as somebody who is voting blue today, presumably across the board, how do you what do you think is going to happen with the presidential election as a blue voter?
Honestly, I think Trump's going to win 100%. I know there's a lot on the no on 3, and I'm in support of 3 because I know the signs all say no on 3, protect the women, but I feel like yes on 3 protects them more, protects their rights, and then protects their body and everything. Just and the only thing I'm thinking of is like they bring up rape and incest and for those matters, and same thing. I don't think a baby should be aborted if it's 2 months into the term. No, but if it's right away, then I think it's okay. On the circumstance.
All right. Well, hey,
I know you're totally against that.
Hey, well, let me tell you, and I'm glad that you called in because something that I didn't preface today's show with, but I have in the past, is that today is a day where people call in, and it's not about, for me, debating the issues or having what would be a normal discussion. It is to open the phone line so people can call, whatever the background, whatever the political beliefs are, left, right, in the middle, and give their thoughts. But now the one question, because I'm just curious, as people tend to surround themselves with birds of a feather flock together, and so Trump supporters talk to Trump supporters, and they're cautiously optimistic. And so I did wonder just your thoughts as somebody who was voting blue. Just your perspective. Yeah.
Driver, and I drive overnight every night. I talk to 5 different guys. 4 of them are all Republican. So I am the only one. I'm the oddball out.
All right. Well, and who knows? Maybe that's why you think that Trump is going to win, because of that. But we will see. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate what you do, and thank you for calling in this morning, and for listening. Yeah, you do the same. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Bye.
Oh yeah. Bye. Yeah, I should have prefaced, and I have in the past, that this isn't about you calling in and then me debating with you if I disagree with your position. So I was really glad to hear him call in, because I do like to know what it is in certain instances. Like, well, what are your thoughts on this? Because again, while there are instances in which there may be somebody of a political persuasion who is the black sheep within their circle of influence, it's more common that the people you surround yourselves with are people that are like-minded. Maybe not completely, but it makes it easy to get a skewed perspective as to what's going on based off your worldview and the little world that we live in. And so I always like getting those perspectives from people that are of a different political persuasion when it comes to how you think things are going to go. Why do you think it's going to go that way? 417-447-KSGF. Let's see. Dan in Springfield, hold on real quick. I want to get this break taken care of, and then we will get to you and other calls and text messages. I'm Nick Reed. Your calls, your text messages all morning long, as long as they keep coming anyhow. Delta Roofing sponsoring it. 417-447-KSGF to Dan in Springfield. What are you thinking today, Dan?
Well, sir, I just got done voting over at Kickapoo. Can you hear me clearly first?
Yes, sir. You got it.
Awesome. I just got done voting at Kickapoo. Like I said, the lines were quick and efficient, which I appreciated. Me personally, I'm generally independent with conservative leanings. I voted mostly red on this particular election because we need to bring this country back into balance, and the blue has been in charge way too long. The only one who I didn't vote for, who's Republican, is Josh Hawley, and that's entirely due to his comments on men the last couple of years.
So did you vote Democrat or one of the, quote, third-party candidates?
I voted for the Libertarian.
Okay. Got it. All right. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
I want to support Josh Hawley, but unless he's willing to support all of his constituents, including guys like me that are single and doing our best in this garbage economy, he doesn't have my support.
So you decided not to also vote for the guy who shot a reporter, Kuntz?
Correct.
Hey, no, I hear you. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Hey, listen, thank you for the call. Appreciate the feedback. I love the polling location feedback as well. And I love the explanations on, people who aren't necessarily voting what would be considered the conventional vote for this particular audience. Because, I find it interesting at times to get that perspective. And here's somebody voting against Josh Hawley because he feels that Hawley is not someone who is looking to represent single men because of his past comments and that being his interpretation. Other than that, voting all Republican, I find that's stuff to be somewhat interesting. Some of the text messages, let me see how I'm doing on time here. Oh, let me actually, we're going to go to a traffic report. As I see it is 7:30, and they are standing by, and then more of your calls and text messages. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield Stock 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see showers throughout the morning and then partly sunny skies with a high near 65. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 66. And on Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 63.
Before I get to these text messages, I want to mention something because I saw it in the opening of some of the national news broadcasts this morning, and it was, it's footage of the different campaigns, and one of the clips while talking about Kamala Harris was her going up to a house, ringing the doorbell, standing there, and some people come to the door, and it's so wonderful to say, oh my gosh, it's Kamala Harris. And the reason that caught my eye, I saw it on 2 networks, is because that was posted on social media last night, along with the video of her standing outside the house, talking to the people beforehand, telling them to go inside and pretend as if they're just inside, and then she comes and rings the doorbell and they're surprised. And I remember thinking, is the media going to, even though this is so clearly faked, and she's on tape telling them, well, go inside and pretend like I just came over. Will they still air it edited to make it look as if this is an authentic door-to-door campaign? And of course, that's exactly what they did. Now, these are the same people in the media that went overboard trying to make sure you understood that Donald Trump really didn't work at McDonald's, that was all staged. Your messages with our open phone lines today. Sponsored by Delta Roofing. Longest line I've seen at my election location on Barnes and Grand. Took about 50 minutes to vote. Another I voted this morning, Taney County, took me about 5 minutes from the time I walked into the door to the time I walked out. I voted at Elizabeth Ann Seton this morning, and the turnout was impressive. It was also great to hear there were many first-time voters participating. Definitely a positive sign. Willard counting machine broken, waiting on a technician. We had a caller referencing that earlier, that one of the machines was broken, and so they were calling a technician. Cooper Tennis Complex. Judge said that they had a line all morning there, in and out in 25 minutes. Mine was ballot 104 of over 7,500 expected. Vote a straight ticket GOP. No on everything else, including judges. Another finished voting in 18 minutes, line getting shorter. Text saying, typically in past years, I've always voted to not retain judges. This time, I do think it's important to retain both Supreme Court justices that are on the ballot. And then there was a question regarding someone had called and said they were a felon, asking about the ability to vote. A number of you weighing in on that. They can vote after they are off parole. Another saying, I am an ex-felon. Once my sentence was complete, I was again allowed to vote, voted for Trump 3 times. I want to, and I don't know that I've ever talked about this, but there is a misconception that people who are felons are going to vote Democrats because they're criminals. Now, what you have are in some states, like once you complete your sentence, and then once you're off parole, then, and I believe that's the way it is in Missouri, once you are no longer on parole and you've officially finished your sentence, then you are allowed to vote. Now, there are some states in which even if you're on parole, they want to allow it. But I want to dispel this stereotype based off of anecdotal evidence, but well thought out. This idea that somebody who is a felon is automatically going to vote for Democrats because Democrats are soft on crime. I have found in conversations with people that deal with felons and even felons, former felons, that these are oftentimes individuals that vote more conservative. And the reason that I believe that is the case is because if you are somebody that has committed some sort of crime in life, and you really genuinely are a person that is not going to, you've changed your life. Because you've got different types of criminals. You have those that it doesn't matter. They go back. It's a revolving door. You get out, you commit a crime, you go back in. You get out, you commit a crime, you go back in. Generally speaking, I don't think those people have any interest in voting anyhow. But when you have the individual that makes a life change, that decides this is not what I want anymore, I have to make a change, and they experience that the only way you can really improve your life is if you do it yourself. You put in the work. And if you are somebody who is a convicted felon, you have a lot of obstacles in front of you that the average person may not have in front of them. And there is this appreciation that can be earned in a situation like that of understanding that success really does ultimately come to those who work for it. And you cannot help people who do not help themselves. Well, if you have that mindset in life, you clearly are going to be more likely to vote for somebody who also has that perspective, and that's going to be somebody that doesn't believe government is the answer for everything, which is someone who's more conservative, or a Donald Trump who has himself proven to be a great success, who's also a quote felon. And so I think that if you really think about it, you can recognize that this stereotype, every person who has been in jail for, well, anything for that matter, it doesn't necessarily have to be just a felon, but has served prison time, that because Democrats are soft on crime, that means that all criminals are going to, or the majority of them, are going to vote for Democrat. Those who are what we would say rehabilitated and who have recognized what it takes to be a success and get your life back on track, I would argue, and in my experience in knowing people who have been in this particular sort of life cycle, if you will, life experiences, you're going to be more likely to vote for somebody who's conservative. Machines not scanning in Forsyth, they didn't work from the very beginning this morning. I'm just going through some of the text messages that you all are texting in. Do I think the DOJ will prevent illegals from voting? I think they're doing everything they can to not prevent them from voting. In fact, there are, let's see, I don't have the story in front of me. There are numerous stories about how you have different states with GOP, Secretary of State, Attorneys General, that are very upset because they are trying to oftentimes cross-reference individuals on the voter rolls with those that the DOJ, that the federal government recognizes are illegals, and the Biden administration is hiding that information. So they are not only wanting, arguably, illegals to vote, the states that are run by Republicans doing everything they can to clean up the voter rolls. The Democrats and the Biden administration is doing everything they can, including in some states going to court, to make sure that that isn't happening. And there's only one reason for that, and that is so that illegals will be able to cast votes in this election. Ben in Springfield, hold on just 90 seconds after the traffic. You will be up next. I'm Nick Reed. 417-447-KSGF. Open phone lines this morning. That's sponsored by Delta Roofing. And then our live coverage starting at 8 o'clock from the Greene County Republican Watch Party at University Plaza Convention Center. That will be sponsored by Junior's Plumbing. Let's go to Ben in Springfield. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, thank you.
Good. I had a couple of points. I was just actually wondering if the candidates were allowed to send somebody out in front of the polling place with a sign for said particular candidate.
Yeah, as long as it's like 30 feet or this comes up every time. I always forget the exact distance. It's like they just have to be a certain distance from the door. So it may be like 30 feet or 25 feet. So they are allowed, but there's supposed to be this little bubble, invisible bubble around it.
Sure. And then I guess another point, I guess, was the directionality of the country. What was it? 78% of the constituents polled were in belief that the country wasn't headed in the right direction. And I guess I'm just concerned that people will still vote on feelings.
I know. Well, it's crazy. And the breakdown of the polling it was over 50% of Democrats. So if we're talking about the same poll, it was obviously like 98% of Republicans or some, really high number. But for it was over 50% of Democrats, and they still show up and they cheer to continue doing the same thing. And it does. It makes you smack your head like, what are you thinking? I guess you're not, I suppose is what it is.
Yeah. I likened it. I was going to say I had a couple friends that were talking, and I likened it to two trains at a station, and you've got one train headed one direction, and you've got another train headed another direction. You can see where the trains are going. So which direction do you want to go? I don't know if that helped them decide, but I hope it did.
And Ben, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. I do think when we see these numbers where it's 50+% of Democrats say the country's headed in the wrong direction, and I suppose some of them will vote for Donald Trump, but obviously a majority of those will vote to continue taking us in the same direction. I think it's rationalization. They pick a team and they believe that team is the right team and Donald Trump is evil. And so they convince themselves that Kamala Harris is going to do things differently. The things that she tells them that she needs to about now, of course, I know you're saying to yourself, but she said she wouldn't do anything differently. But she also said that she would do things differently. And that's what they cling to. So it's just clinging to whatever it is that allows them to tell themselves that they were right, and that they weren't wrong about Donald Trump. And it's that rationalization is a very, very powerful psychological condition, I guess you would maybe call it. Action. Yeah.
To answer Ben's question, it's 25 feet outside of polling places, outer door.
To Ash Grove, Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to call in. I was listening to you a little bit ago, and you were talking about convicted felons and voting.
Yes.
So, I'm a convicted felon. I did some time in prison, and I'm still on parole. And, you were talking about the statistics and the recidivism rate about, they've done screwed up once and they'll just be consistently going back and forth into the system. Well, for me, it would benefit me more if I voted for them idiots than Democrats. They have more to do with somebody in my situation or to try to benefit me. But I like to think that I've beat the statistics. I'm a single dad.
Yeah.
I'm walking my parole flawlessly, no issues. I had my eyes opened up. I work 50, 60 hours a week, come home and be a dad to my son. And so this morning, I was there. I was the third in line to go vote, and I tried. I gave her hell, and you know, I went. I'm a Trump supporter, extremely conservative, but they wasn't going to let me. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, for those that missed it, I was talking earlier because there was a question about felons voting and in Missouri how that works. And I had noted that there's been this stereotype that, this is for people that are just tuning in, that criminals, past criminals are going to always vote Democrat because Democrats are soft on crime. And my argument was, when it comes to individuals that have straightened their life up, that have done what you did, and you got on the right path, and you talk about you work all these hours, and it's much more difficult, I believe, on average, for somebody who's a former criminal or a former felon to get on that right track than someone who hasn't been one, because there are obstacles in the way, there are stereotypes and so forth. But in getting to that point of success, it's work, and it's something that you have to do on your own. And then I would imagine, and some of this comes from knowing people in that particular situation, that somebody who gets to that point of correcting their life and doing it through hard work is going to identify more with a person who's running for office that is also about that same thing. And you talk about, here you get out of prison, you get a job, taxes, or you're like, my gosh, it seems like they never lay off.
Oh, yeah.
And so that, of course, is going to be a more conservative approach. So I was just, for those who tuned in and wonder if that resonates with you, any, that thought.
Well, for me, I was in during COVID, and then coming out, and how everything is just so super expensive. And we follow that stuff when you're in prison, you follow politics and see what's going on. And it's just a bunch of nonsense. And this election is a fight between good and evil. Yeah. And, for somebody in my situation, for me personally, I can't speak to everybody, because some people come out and they've got a chip on their shoulder, and they've got a hard on towards law enforcement, and they've got this and that. For me, it was an eye opener, and I utilized that time in a good way, and I learned, and I come out, both feet on the ground, man. And you just get to a point in your life where you just get enough's enough.
Right.
The Lord got a hold of me, and
there you go.
That's just, I can't speak for everybody.
Right.
Because some people live that lifestyle and choose not to get out of it. Well, I chose to. And, I just wanted to comment, man.
Well, no, I appreciate, I without a doubt appreciate it, and that insight. And I'll say here before, because we've got some other calls, I have always felt that some of what should be held up as the greatest role models are those that have overcome those obstacles, because it's easy, I should say, to succeed when you haven't made decisions that set you back in life. But for a person who has made decisions, got caught up in situations and circumstances in which their decisions led them to take all those steps backwards and to end up in prison perhaps, and then make the decision, no, I mean, you're starting from way behind, and to overcome those things and to then get out and play catch up, if you will. I've always thought those are the people that really should be oftentimes looked at, because you want to talk about putting on full display the fact that anyone can overcome things, and that maybe I think, man, I've got it tough, or I can never overcome this, and then to look to people who have overcome so much more. I've always had I think maybe a different perspective on that when it comes to role models and those people that we should look at and think, you know what, excuse me, that is somebody that really, really worked hard and overcame obstacles that I could never imagine. So, hey, Justin, thanks for the call. I really appreciate it this morning. We'll get to Noah in moments. Quick break, more ahead. I'm Nick Reed. All right. Your calls all morning long as they're coming. Text messages too. Sponsored by Delta Roofing. Noah in Springfield. Welcome to the show, Noah.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for taking the call.
Of course.
Hey, I wanted to just make a comment based on just what I've heard the last few callers call in. It's amazing to me just how effective the rhetoric is around, especially amendments like on abortion and whatnot, and it just how tricky the rhetoric is. And we're past. I mean, we're voting today, so we're past the point of changing hearts and minds. But I just wanted to encourage the other listeners. It's easy to, it is tricky, but just a couple of minutes of research and you can kind of sift through what's actually going on. Not everybody. I'm in a little special spot because I can just call up longtime friend of the family, Mike Moon, who I trust, and he can kind of help me with that. But it really is. It is tricky, but we can kind of sift through what is actually going on with this amendment, and that's really all I had to say.
No, and you're right, and unfortunately, it has become increasingly difficult because the one place people would tend to go is your standard mainstream news, and they've gone from just being biased to dishonest political activists. And on a national level in particular, and with all of these I don't think there's any issue on the ballot that is more lied about than Amendment 3. And to your point, there is a pattern that is associated with both sides. On the people who are pro Amendment 3, whenever somebody brings up, well, gosh, this allows for, in circumstances, abortion up until birth, and it allows this and that, their response is, oh, no, that's not true. Or, oh, well, that's not actually in the amendment. That's just in the language. People who are opposed to Amendment 3 are actually handing out and sharing the actual text of the amendment to people. When you have two opposing sides on an issue, and one side is doing everything they can to make sure that people know exactly and specifically what is in it, all the way to the specific text of the amendment, and the other side is just dismissively, without providing information, saying, oh, no, that's just not true, that tells us something. Long ago, I learned that people who have the truth on their side want everyone to know it. They want everyone to know the truth. They provide as much information as possible. And those who don't have the truth on their side don't want that information out. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed.
What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
Springfield's Talk 1041. That is the definition of joy. We're taking calls this morning and your text messages. Sponsored by Delta Roofing. We're going to go straight because I know Glenn, Springfield, been holding on for quite some time. Others lined up as well. Glenn and Springfield, welcome to the show. I'm doing great. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Patriots here in Springfield. We're all decided who we want to lead our country. Several of us have debates on the issues as far as like question number 3. I like the way you lined that out a little earlier. If you could go over a couple of the others, we're on different ends of this, and most of us just uninformed. I mean, as far as the people that I run with, and I was just curious if there's a possibility you might be able to kind of just give a brief synopsis of what these other questions are actually representing, like you did on 3. It was to the point, and everybody kind of, my crowd anyways, everybody kind of got what they're at, and actually some guys changed their minds on it. If that's a possibility, it'd be appreciated, and that's pretty much all I got to say.
All right, Glenn, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do on that is because we do have so many calls lined up and text messages, and even if I go through all of them, then somebody's going to just tune in and miss it. We have that information on our website. Sarah, will you explain that? Because it is a place that you can go at your convenience before you vote if you haven't already and get some of that info.
So if you go to ksgf.com, over in the right-hand side, there's a little drop-down menu. If you click on the elections section, you will find tons of information on every single amendment. And we have it in shortened segments, we have it as a whole, and we have multiple people that have spoke on the amendment. So you can hear from Bishop Davidson, you can hear from Darren Chappell, Tom Martz, the list goes on and on. So you can really pick who you want to hear from. But we do all have all of that information up, ksgf.com.
And that is going to be much more comprehensive than, what it is that I'd be able to do, particularly with all the calls. And I appreciate 100% the sentiment. And if we had more time, then we'd be able to do it. But that's why we put it on the site. So when these instances arose, we would have an option. Speaking of Darren Chappell, Glenn, thanks for the call. Darren Chappell with us this morning. How do you do, sir?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you thinking today?
You know what I like? I like what I'm seeing nationally and here across the state as well. Numbers have really been turning around. But that being said, I don't believe anything. In the pantheon of lies, there's bald-faced lies, and then there's political stats. And we can't believe anything that we see. We've got to get out there and vote. Everybody has to get out there and vote. I think it's imperative, and your audience obviously is far more politically engaged than the average person, and I suspect everybody who's listening today has either already voted or will today. But it's important for us to get our friends, our neighbors, our family members who are registered to the polls. If we all stand up and vote today, there's no cheating that can take place that would overcome
I agree.
that red wave. And Amendment 3 will fail. The only way Amendment 3 can pass in the state of Missouri is if Republicans either vote for it or don't vote. And we cannot tolerate that.
Agreed. All right, Darren Chappell, great to hear from you, sir. Hope next conversation we have is one with smiles on our faces.
You bet. I'll see you tonight.
All right, we'll see you tonight. We'll be doing our live broadcast from University Plaza Convention Center, Greene County Watch Party. That's sponsored by Junior's Plumbing. There's never been such a palpable push to get out the vote by Republicans. I mean, there's always the get out the vote, but you just feel it, you just sense it. And a lot of first-time voters, this is something that is very encouraging to the Trump people because of areas they're coming from. And coming up just a couple of moments, we're going to talk with our very own Katie, who will be voting for the first time. But I do want to, before we get the latest news, talk with, of course, Darren Chappell, state rep, also Michael Hastings running for office as a candidate on many of your ballots. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning. Share your thoughts with us, if you would.
I feel very good and energized going into today. It's been an experience and an uphill fight, but there's lines at all the polling locations, and seeing the early voting turnout makes me very hopeful that everyone's going to make their voice heard for whatever amendment or candidate they're really, really wanting to get through the finish line today.
I want to compliment you on the ad that you posted on social media. Maybe it was last week or even the week prior. It was just such a positive. It was just a really great ad, and having you here on the show now, I wanted to compliment you on that.
Well, thank you, sir. My campaign has just been my life on display.
Yeah.
I'm not a politician, and I genuinely want to represent the people that I feel make the majority of the makeup in the 135th and across Springfield as a whole.
You are, for a lot of people, an example that people claim they want certain things because it's virtue signaling, but they don't really want it. And one of the common virtue signals is I want someone who's not a career politician, but then, like you said, your life's on full display. This is not you. I mean, in terms of you're not a politician, and what we find is that many people instead want a politician who tells them what they want to hear instead of what they claim that they want, because here is an option. Here's that opportunity, and there will be some that don't take it. They will go the path of same old career politician, and we learn more about them than we do the candidates in an instance like that. That being said, good luck, sir, and perhaps we'll talk with you this evening or sometime in the near future.
Thank you, Nick. I'll see you tonight.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Michael. We're going to get a quick check-in with the news. We're going to chat with Katie. We got weather. We got traffic, more of your text messages and calls. Delta Roofing sponsoring that. 417-447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers through the morning and then partly sunny skies with a high near 65. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 66. And on Thursday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 63.
Many of you have prepared for the vote. Make sure you're prepared for winter when it comes to your vehicle. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your winter prep needs, defrost, heater, tires. Are they ready for the wintry weather? Your hoses, your fluids, your belts, everything that can get really brittle and break in the cold temperatures, and your battery. It may seem fine now, but those cold temperatures make it more difficult to turn over. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your winters around the corner time needs. Been talking with, of course, all of you this morning. We have more of your calls lined up, text messages as well. And there's been a lot of talk about first-time voters this time around. And, of course, one of our very own, Katie, first-time voter. Many of you are familiar with Katie. She has done, or for the longest time, a lot of producing on the shows here, and she is with our promotions team full-time, and many of you know her because we joined her on her journey to become an American citizen. And this is your first time voting. You decided you waited till you're doing it on election day, which is we don't want to get into that whole thing, but once upon a time, that's just how it was done. Mm-hmm. And a number of you have texted in that that's the way you're doing it because you just like it that way, and that's the way you're doing it. So, tell us about. Are you excited about this?
I am excited, and I'm also scared.
You're scared?
Yes, that's why I'm taking Sarah, actually.
She's going to go assist. So what are you scared about?
It's just the official portion of it. I've never voted in my life. Even in Russia, when I lived in Russia, I moved here at the age of 16, so I never got to vote in Russia for anything. So this is my first time voting in general, in my life. It's a pretty big deal.
It is. So, I'm sure I'm not going to ask you how you're going to vote, but do you have a sense? Do you know how you're going in there? I mean, you're more than welcome to if you want to. Just didn't want to put you on the spot, but didn't know if you had
I know exactly what I
you know-
want.
you know
I
what
know
you-
exactly who I want. And Sarah and I did the studying before.
Oh, okay.
We did all the research together, so.
You can read between the lines there.
Well, I suspected, but
I also had a question. You guys
Yeah.
have an interesting saying for Joe Biden, which is "Let's go, Brandon." Which one is for Kamala? Is it "Let's go, Betty," or
I don't,
like?
I don't know. That's a good question. Now, do you know where the "Let's Go, Brandon" came from? Do you know
Yes.
why? Okay, all right.
Yes,
I
I
wasn't
know
sure
the
if you knew
story,
the,
and
the
I can't
origins
say
of
it
that.
on-
Yes, very good. That's why we say "Let's go, Brandon." Yeah, boy, I don't know. I think it's just a loud cackle. Maybe that's what it is. But hopefully, we won't have to come up with one.
Hopefully not. No.
I suspect this will be the end of her political career if she doesn't win. But she'll probably get some professorship somewhere. So any other thoughts you wanted to share with people? Or you don't have to. I just didn't know. Do you feel like this is the final thing that you have not yet done as a new American?
Yes.
You saw the ocean recently.
Still the ocean, and this is my next thing on the bucket list.
Uh-huh.
This is me officially feeling like an American
Yeah.
citizen. Me feeling like I'm a part of this country now, officially.
are.
So,
You absolutely
and
are.
if Trump wins, I want to interview his wife on the American Dream podcast.
Oh,
Because she's
yeah.
an immigrant just like me. She's also a Slavic woman just like me. So
That's right. And for people who don't know about your podcast, do tell
yes,
if you would.
the American Dream podcast, I interview immigrants here in the 417 from different countries to talk about their American dream, why they moved to America, and their journey overall.
It's won awards even. It's award-winning in the entire state of Missouri.
Yes, find it on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, anywhere you get your podcast.
Well, even if Trump doesn't win, you could still interview her.
Yes, of course.
She might even have more time on her hands, potentially. I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know.
That's true.
Well, we're very excited for you. We're very glad that you're going to get to mark this off your list and officially be part of the family in that context.
I can't wait.
All right, fantastic. All right, want to get a quick break, and then Chris in Polk County, if you can hold on, and Edward in Springfield, we will get to you also. And I know text messages are kind of hitting them in spurts, those as well. 417-447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. All right, back to the phone lines all morning long. All of your calls and texts sponsored by Delta Roofing. Edward in Springfield, welcome, Edward. Your thoughts today?
Morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Thank you for your
Yes.
good morning. Thank you for your time.
My
Hey,
pleasure.
listen. You're talking about these new people coming out and voting this year, and thanks to all those the parents and the kids getting out and voting. That's a great legacy there. However, I went over to Mercy this morning, the central location, and just a heads up, they are not giving you an option for a paper ballot. You have to ask for one. And when I waited in line and finally got to the judges and asked for a paper ballot, I was told, well, all of them didn't get delivered this morning, so we may or may not have it, so let's go see. Luckily, they had a ballot for my precinct, but people are not given an option. It's like a cattle call. You're being brought in, initial here, and then they hand you the slip, and you go stand in line, and nobody says anything about, hey, you have an option for a paper ballot. So all these new voters out there.
What polling location is that?
That was Mercy Hospital.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's all the other precincts, but that's what I ran into this morning.
Yeah, we haven't heard that. We've heard, Willard location there, trouble with the machine that accepts it, and a couple of other areas in which they say that they are working on it. But that is something that we had not heard yet.
Yeah. No, I did see a lady walk in with some sleeves of what looked like ballots, but I don't know what it was. It's none of my business to ask. But the judge was like, well, you should come and volunteer at a poll sometime and see how this works. And I'm like, I've been filling out a paper ballot for however many years now. And
I like the paper.
Yeah, exactly. So just into these new voters, hey, you have a right to ask for a paper ballot. You do not have to wait in line for an electric ballot if you don't want to. So.
All right, Edward. Thank you. I appreciate the update this morning.
No problem, Nick. Have a great day.
All right, you do the same. Let's go to Polk County. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. How are you all doing today?
Good morning to you as well.
Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm Christopher Warwick up here in Polk County, which is the 128th district. I'm encouraging all those that can get out to the ballots and get voting as much as we can as far as get out there, all registered voters. We need everybody out there. Today is the day that we come together as a community, as citizens, and as a powerful collective to shape our future. Every single one of us holds in our hands the power to decide who leads our country and our state. It's not just about elected officials. It's about the direction of our communities, the values we uphold, and the legacies we leave behind. As we step into the voting booth, remember that each choice echoes in lives around us. We don't just vote for people, but for ideas, vision, plans that resonate with our hopes for society. Today, as we had the opportunity to weigh on so many crucial amendments to the Missouri Constitution, each amendment represents a step and a change that either uplifts or constrains our rights and freedoms. Take none of this lightly. Every vote counts. Every decision carries weight. Remember, choices made today echoes for generations, and reversing them isn't an easy task. We stand at the crossroads of filling the possibilities of our voices deserve to be heard loud and clear. So all those new first-time voters, make sure we're understanding those amendments, making sure we know the candidates that we're choosing, because it's not something we can change once done.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, and good luck today.
Thank you very much.
All right, you bet. I'm going to hit some of these text messages before we do go to traffic. Time to turn our clocks back to cheaper gas and world peace. Another one. This from James saying, this election to me is like going skydiving. The instructor says, well, I have this parachute, and the last time a guy used it, a malfunction, and of course he perished. Then we have this parachute that has been through rigorous tests, and several folks have successfully used it. Now, which parachute do you choose? Randall texting, voted Republican down ballot. Only Amendment 7 banning illegal aliens from voting needs to be in the Constitution. No on judges, because I just don't want lifetime appointments. Another, I just voted in Bruner. There was no line, but there were approximately 6 people who already voted. When I walked in, my ballot was 115. Webster County voting line busy, but in and out 5 minutes. Well-run machine, over 100 people voting right now. Some of these are from earlier in the show. Voted in 5 minutes at Nixa High School. And another that is noting that if you are in line before the official close of the polls, don't let anyone tell you that you cannot vote. And if someone tries to tell you that, stand firm. As long as you were in line when the polls close, you are still allowed to vote. Live in Roundtree, way outnumbered by Democrat loyalists, voted at Delaware Elementary, got there 5 minutes after polls open. It was 188. Usually I'm around 25, so big a turnout, which could suggest high Democrat turnout given that particular area. Ballot counting machine broken in Willard. They won't let us come back and vote again later, won't let us leave with our ballots, and are placing all ballots in a completely unsecured drawer to count later. It's my understanding some local news outlets, or at least one, is headed out there to cover that. Haven't gotten an update as to whether that issue has been remedied. I've never not voted in the morning at my polling place in Stratford, but at 6:10 this morning, the parking lot was so full, I didn't see a spot, and the line was all the way across the parking lot, much longer than it was in 2020 and 2016. Another noting, beyond the sheer volume of people, I believe the hold-ups are going to be due to people just not being prepared on all the amendments. Someone may get in there and not know and may use their phone to research. My husband and I talked with our children on those to help them prepare, as it can be overwhelming and stressful when you know people are waiting on you. I voted at a small rural church where there were 5 dividers and people had the option to sit and vote in a pew. My husband and I are usually one of the first few people, but this morning I was 5th in line and did not recognize the people in front of me nor the ones in line when I came out. I found that interesting. Total of about 10 minutes. Voted no on 3, says another. And while abortion is an important aspect, just as important for future generations is not allowing children to transition without parental notice or attaining adulthood. And someone else sent a pic. Here we come. And it's a street filled with garbage cans. Turnout very heavy at Second Baptist Church in Springfield this morning. Polling location at Cumberland Presbyterian on Republic in Charleston. So many people this morning they had to park across the street in the residential area. I don't mind, but that's the most I've seen ever from 2020. The last caller was great, someone noted. Now, this is from last hour. I'm a diehard Red, but when people can actually have a decent conversation, that is what we need more in this world. I think he's referencing someone who had called in who voted blue, but, was just talking about that and the reasons for it and so forth, and I thought it was a good conversation. A worker in my precinct had a shirt on that said, "I stand with black women." I always thought the workers were to appear to be nonpartisan. Well, that would be considered nonpartisan. Now, if someone had a shirt on that said, "I stand with white men," I think that we all know what would happen in that instance. But racism is allowed with certain people, while it is not with others. And your other calls coming up, also text messages. Kirk, if you can hold on, I know you've been patient. Let's get this traffic update, weather check, and then we will get to you. 417-447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed.
1041, Sarah Myers here, and the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, we've had lots of rain over the last couple of days, and if you've noticed any yellowing on your ceiling, maybe you have drips that are starting to develop, or maybe your gutters are just not functioning the way that they should be, I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer free roof inspections, so whenever you call them, you're not out anything whenever you do give them that call. They'll come out, they'll do that free roof inspection for you. They won't give you a sales pitch. They'll just tell you how it is. Maybe you're in a situation where you don't need a whole new roof. Maybe you need just a simple roof repair. Whatever the situation is, the Pyramid Roofing Company is going to be honest about the work that needs to be done. So if it is time to schedule that free roof inspection, give the Pyramid team a call today. You can find all of that contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com. The First Alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers throughout the morning and then partly sunny skies with a high near 65. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 44. For your Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 66. And on Thursday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 63.
Delta Roofing sponsoring our open phone and text lines this morning to Kirk. Kirk, welcome to the show.
Hey, bro, what's going on?
Hey, just election stuff.
Yeah, hey, I just want to let you know we're in the Netherlands, and I just want to let you know when we go through the airport, we're walking through, people can pick out the American and you talk to them. They want to know, did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote?
Really interesting.
And they aren't. Yeah, it was. They weren't saying, oh, did you vote for Trump? Did you vote for Harris? None of that. Just did you vote? And people here are excited about us voting. I didn't expect that.
That is interesting. I would not. I mean, I guess I know that there's a lot of attention paid to it, but that much to where people would proactively ask if you voted, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they figure out where we're from, they look at you like say in the airport, they're like, did you vote? And then they give me a thumbs up when I say, yeah, we did like a few weeks ago.
Very interesting. That is very interesting. Well, hopefully you'll have good news to share with them.
Oh, shit. I hope so.
When it's all done and over with. Well, enjoy. Are you just on vacation over there?
Yeah, I've seen probably more Rembrandt and Van Gogh stuff than I thought was humanly possible.
Well, I tell you what, no Barry Manilow.
No, it's not. But it's.
I said we sat next to each other at the we sat next to each other at the concert. That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah.
But all right, well, listen, have a good time over there, and
we will.
We'll talk with you when you get back.
It's hard. It's a little harder to listen. We have to listen through the website. The app doesn't work over here.
Oh, okay.
Which is odd.
That is odd.
But yeah. So anyway, I'll catch you soon.
All right, Kirk, thank you so much. Good to hear from you, too. Hope you have a really great time over there. Let's go to closer to home, Springfield. Susan, welcome to the show.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Good morning. I love your show.
Thank you.
I have a pro-life, pro-choice story.
Okay.
I was encouraged by my doctors to have an abortion as a Christian woman because of my life was in jeopardy and I had 2 young children, and all of my doctors insisted I have an abortion because of the life-threatening circumstance of my pregnancy. But I chose life. And out of that, I have a wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous, great daughter, 6 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. So 11 lives were spared that day.
Wow, that is a very encouraging story. I'll say this, and it's somewhat anecdotal. I've known and spoken with and heard from just different events or editorials written from a lot of moms who desperately regretted having an abortion. But I've never met any mother who said that they wished that they had one, that they regretted actually having their son or daughter. And I think that that's something that too often gets overlooked.
Yes, true. God bless.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate the call this morning. Got to take another quick break. More of your calls coming in. And by the way, that includes rape. I have either known personally Well, I have several, which is actually kind of unusual, I should say, I've known of a number of people who were children of rape. And it's even in those circumstances, I don't find that when the mother chooses to let her daughter or son live, that they regretted it. Even in that circumstance. And that's just something that doesn't ever really get talked about so much. All right, we will get to Allen in Republic in just moments. I'm Nick Reed. Live election coverage tonight, sponsored by Junior's Plumbing. That will be from University Plaza Convention Center, Greene County, starting at 8 o'clock this morning. Open phone line, sponsored by Delta Roofing. To Allen in Republic. Welcome to the show, Allen.
Good morning, Nick and Sarah. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic.
Well, I'm calling for some help. I've listened to both candidates, watched all the rallies, and now I'm totally confused. So I'm going to do what a lot of people do. I don't know whether to listen to Beyonce and Taylor Swift or go with Elon Musk and Joe Rogan. What do you think?
Well, I would argue that if, like anyone who gives their opinion, regardless of their background and economic status, the reasons that they give for it, and I would disregard who they actually are and listen only to the reasons they give. That's what I would recommend.
That's good. I knew you'd have an answer.
Well, I usually do, even if it doesn't make sense.
All I can say is everybody needs to go vote. Don't let the rain put a squelch on it. Get out there and do your civic duty.
All right, Alan. Thank you, sir. Hey, it's good to hear from you.
You bet. You bet. We'll talk to you later, Nick.
All right, you too. I mean that, and obviously you have all these really wealthy Hollywood celebrities that are supporting Kamala Harris. It is the party of rich celebrity. But then they're like, well, Elon Musk, he's rich, and Joe Rogan is rich. Why should you listen to them? You know what? Just disregard the celebrity component. I would argue they're different types of celebrities, if you want to call them that. Elon Musk, I would put his contribution to society up against Oprah Winfrey, Taylor Swift, Beyonce any day. And I'm not saying that they aren't fantastic Americans that provide us with something, but it's a different type of celebrity, if you will. And Joe Rogan even as well. But listen to what they say. Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, they can sit and talk, and they did, in fact, for hours, the exact specific reasons why it is that they support Donald Trump, as opposed to like Oprah Winfrey yesterday. Oh, because if you're a woman, you may not be able to vote again if Donald Trump's elected president. Just these absurd, lunatic positions, and because Trump's going to assassinate political opposition, these accusations that are not based in any sort of reality whatsoever, as opposed to the very meaningful reasons. So it is the reason that I think a lot of people dislike the celebrity endorsement. It isn't so much because it's coming from a celebrity, but the vast majority of them don't give any actual reasons, which for the average person who is negatively impacted by the policies of this administration, that's a little bit off-putting. Let's go to Jim Robinette, who is on the ballot for many of you. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey,
yes.
Good to talk to you, Nick.
Good to talk with you as well. Your thoughts this morning?
Well, my thoughts are that the weather has cooperated, or at least moderated some. So I'm encouraged. I heard there were long lines everywhere this morning, and I saw a little bit of that, but the lines are down. I've seen that they're getting the curbside voting done well, and we feel pretty good. The campaign, I think I've heard from a lot of people, people with a lot more experience than me, the first-time guy, have said the campaign was well run, so we're cautiously optimistic.
Well, that's great. I know you also had an ad that stood out, a lot of Dr. Seuss style rhyming in it that people have heard, and so I know it was one of the favorite ads that's out there in an era where so many of those ads that get so overwhelming and redundant. It's always accepted with pleasure from people whenever there's one that's a little bit different in tone. Thank you, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I can't take any credit for that. That was the House Republican Campaign Committee. They're the ones who put that ad together and did it in its entirety. And of course, we're legally prohibited from coordinating with them.
Right.
But frankly, the one I was most happy to see from them was her voting record. I told a lot of people they can look it up online, but I just have my resume to run on and what I'd like to get done. But I hope the voters know about her voting record.
Jim Robinette, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good luck this evening. Or today.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it.
All right, you bet. I got a text in, and this is from one of you per State Rep Jamie Gregg. You can remain in your vehicle if you can't wait in line due to physical challenges when voting. They will supply paper ballot to your car and carry it back for you. So if you do have physical limitations, something to keep in mind. Text messages, greetings from Pope County, Missouri. Just voted in the East Madison Township. That's fair play. Voted all red all the way down the ticket. I was number 182, very small precinct that actually is a high number for that polling place. Did vote for Chris Warwick, so yay, go Chris. Another went to Hickory Hills Elementary, 6 a.m., line to the end of the building, returned at 8:15, easy peasy, no line. That would reflect what Mr. Robinette was saying there. My son and I were in and out in half an hour in Republic. And all right, so those are the latest text messages that I have in queue. I will check for any new updates and share those. Plus, Robert Monette, we will get to you next. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. When it comes to voting for the best person to take care of you, whether it's buying a home, selling a home, or doing both at the same time, how nerve-wracking that can be, not for Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. She is an expert at that, best you can get, and even if it's not for you, but you have a friend, particularly one that's moving from out of town, she specializes in that, and they are in desperate need of someone to take care of them for home buying, home selling needs. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Question on the text line, any update on Willard voting machines? Not that we have. Another, that is in reference to a voting machine that was down there. They said a technician was on the way. Last word we got. Calvin and Aurora. I was at Aurora 5 minutes till about 6, about 100 in line at that point. In addition to voting on Election Day, says another text, all that believe in pro-life donated money to preborn and show just how important it is. Money talks. Nick, I voted at the Library Center yesterday morning. About 75% of the people in line were women. And I think I've hit all the others. So let's go to Robert in Monette. Robert, welcome to the show.
Nick, thanks for the time. Love your show.
Hey, thank you. Thank
do.
you very much.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I grew up in the city of Houston. Great city, massive, live in a small rural area, and really appreciate that, especially in the crazy, loony times that we've seen over the last few years. A lot to be said for that. And God willing, we get 4 more years of Trump and another 8 years of Vance after that. Did see the Hillbilly Elegy on Netflix. You know, if you're into those types of movies, it's a good watch, and the book's even better. But J.D. Vance is a heck of a story and a true grassroots guy. Plus, he's 39. So
well, and
young,
you know, if
young
ever there was, for particularly that age, the personification of the American dream, and what has been so sad is that his, not just his policy beliefs, but particularly Tim Walz attacked him for that assent. That, you know, he was mocked at the DNC for going to Harvard and getting a law degree and all of these things. Like, what you're dogging on success, and aside from his political beliefs, I mean, what an incredible story. Once again, the demonstration that in this country still, if you put your mind to it, it doesn't matter where you started. You can be a success. And to see that trashed is just, many would argue that that's pretty, it gives you a real sense of who the Democrat Party is, that they see that as something that should be trashed. Hey, Robert, thanks for the call, sir.
Surreal. Yeah. Hey, one more comment,
yes.
Nick, if I can.
Uh-huh.
In Monette today, no means go. We want to move forward. Thank you.
All right, you bet. Thank you. And we have 2 minutes left. Final call, Bishop Davidson, who is also on the ballot and happens to be my state rep. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. Good to hear from you.
You bet. You bet. You got a couple minutes here. I'll tell you when you got 30 seconds left.
No, that sounds good. As you can expect, I'm out here at the polls. I've been here since 6 a.m. Plan is to be here till 7 p.m. Huge lines to start us off with, and I think everyone's a little grumpy from the cold and the dark and the wet and the damp and all that, but things be moving along a lot quicker now. I've also been surveying people as they go in, just asking about tax policy, education policy, innocuous stuff, and then offering them text of Amendment 3 if they'd like to actually read the language before voting. And so these are, I think, important times. Most important ballot that I've ever seen in Missouri, and there's a real shot at no on 3, at Amendment 3 failing, but it's going to take every single one of your listeners who's listening right now to text someone, to grab someone who doesn't normally vote, get them to vote no on 3 too. The margins are going to be razor thin, I think, and we could be the first state in the union to stay pro-life, considering Kentucky didn't, Ohio didn't, Kansas didn't. That would be a huge thing for Missouri to take a stand.
All right, good luck this evening, sir. Perhaps we'll see you.
Yes.
Okay. Will you be at the watch party, the Greene County University Plaza Convention Center?
It depends on how quickly I can get some signs out and things like that. But, yeah, the plan is to stop by there.
All right. Sure. Well, we will be there starting at 8 o'clock, broadcasting live, sponsored by Junior's Plumbing. So we'd love to get you on if you have a few minutes, if you are able to make it out there. And it is open to the public, everyone, so do come out.
Yeah.
Bishop Davidson, thank you, sir. Good luck today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. You know, he mentioned there that he was providing the actual text to the amendment. And I'll note again that people who are opposed to Amendment 3 are doing everything they can to make sure people know exactly what's in it, as opposed to those who are in support of Amendment 3. And anytime you have one side that wants you to know as much information as possible, that's a clue. We'll talk to you beginning 8 o'clock tonight. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.